Okay, so Simons and Chabris, 1999. This is linked to the key theme of attention in the cognitive area. So, to start with, if I just show you the clip very quickly, if you haven't watched it already, then I don't want to spoil it for you, so you might want to pause and Google selective attention test on YouTube. But for those of you who have seen it, then it's essentially, this is the stimuli they used. You can see 1999 Daniel Simons down there, and you ask participants to, they essentially ask participants to either follow how many times the players in white pass the ball or the players in black pass the ball, and then they manipulated two more things. One, whether there was a gorilla that walked through the scene, or whether there was a woman with an umbrella that walked through the scene. And the other independent variable was whether they were opaque, which is you can't see through them. Like you can see here, they are stood in front of those lifts. You can't see through them. But they also had a transparent condition where you could see through them. They'd filmed these teams in another room and then used overlay and video editing so that they weren't as clear. Basically, the visual imagery wasn't as clear because they were transparent. And essentially, just to give away everything that they found, what they found was people generally were there was a surprisingly high level of people who didn't spot the event, the unexpected event. And that's what they called it, an unexpected event. Whether it was the woman with the brolly or whether it was the man with the gorilla, sorry, I think it's a woman in the gorilla actually, but whoever it was, there was high levels of participants who didn't spot the person and the unexpected event. And this study therefore shows how our attention in a visual scene gets drawn to the particular thing that we're focusing on. In the transparent condition, less people didn't spot the unexpected event, so more people spotted the gorilla when these people are transparent, because perhaps our eyes aren't focusing as strongly as in this kind of strong condition, the opaque condition. So let's have a look at the study. So the theoretical background to this. It's the idea of focused visual attention and how it can be broadly known as being cognitive misers. There's a theory called cognitive miser, which says that our brains don't want to do too many things. So we focus our attention, whether that's auditory or visual, onto specific things. We don't take in all of the information. So the cluttered scenes of everyday life present more objects than the individual can respond to. So we have mechanisms of attention that select objects of interest. So in the busy worlds that we face, we have these abilities that allows us to just further process the important information. So it's not that you walk down a corridor at your college and there's big gaping black holes everywhere. You still take in the information, but the amount of attention you pay to those bits of information depends on where you decide to go. So if you focus your attention onto a particular thing, so if you look at one thing in the room that you're in now that you weren't currently looking at, then you focus on that in particular. One of these mechanisms is just simply eye movements, so you can fixate on particular regions that benefit the greater activity of the fovea. I think I pronounced that correctly, or fovea, which is the area at the back of the eye that allows you to see things. So attention is necessary for change detection. If you're going to see something change, like a gorilla walk in, or someone changing their coat, or anything, then you need to be paying attention to it, or you're not going to notice the change. Change blindness is a term that's used where we don't spot the large changes that take place, and we often don't, and it's very easy to to miss those. Another good YouTube clip is the Who Done It one, where lots of things change in the scene and you don't notice it, so it's worth YouTubing that as well if you haven't seen it. So previous research had shown increasing interest in the issue of visual representations. So results showed that the majority of observers did not report seeing unexpected events, even though it was clearly visible. To overcome the fact, previous research did not systematically consider the role of task difficulty in the detection. So with that, with the independent variable in this, one of the independent variables being the transparent and the opaque, one condition is much more difficult than the other. So what they're trying to do here is also show how difficult the task that you're asking people can impact their ability to spot the differences. No direct comparisons were made between performance with a superimposed version of the display and a live version. So several video segments were taken. Set of actions in the same location on the same day were filmed. Large number of naive observers, so people who didn't know what was going on, were asked to watch the video recordings later and answer questions about the unexpected events. Okay, so that's essentially what's going on. They're asking people to observe and then answer questions later. Right, so what was the research method of the current study? Lab experiment, independent measures design. So participants are only sitting one of those different independent variables. It obviously wouldn't work. A weakness of using, well, a strength of using independent measures design is you avoid order effects, and in this research, order effects would have been significant because you would be looking for the gorilla the second time you see it. The IVs were whether the participant took part in any of the following. So transparent umbrella woman condition. So we've got the transparent condition with the umbrella. We've got the transparent condition with the gorilla. The opaque umbrella. So remember, opaque means you can't see through. And opaque gorilla. I've missed a slash there, but there we go. Opaque and gorilla condition. For each of the 4 displays, there were 4 task conditions. So you can see down here, you've got those 4 conditions are there. You've got the see-through transparent, and you've got the opaque that you can't see through, and you've got the umbrella there, and you've got the gorilla there. For each of the 4 displays, there were 4 tasks. Okay, so every one of these has got 4 task conditions. White, easy. White, hard. Black, easy, and black, hard. Now, I'll explain what those mean in a bit. But so each one of these, white, easy, white, hard, black, easy, black, hard, and the same for every one of those conditions, which means in total they have 16 different conditions. Okay, and they're all independent measures designs. These were essentially, I'll tell you now and then we'll look at it in a sec, but these were essentially, the white easy is following the white team. Easy is just counting the number of passes, that's the instruction. If it's white hard, then they were being asked to do more complex things like count the number of bounce passes and the number of air passes. Okay, so far more difficult to follow because you're trying to count 2 different things. All right, and white and black is simply the team dressed in white or the team dressed in black. Okay. So there you go. There's the nice clear conditions. So this is superimposed over the top, whereas this isn't, and opaque. If you, I suppose it's a compliment. If no, No. If someone's a very good liar, you could say you are opaque, that means you can't see through them. Whereas someone who's a terrible liar, you can see right through them. There you go. Call someone opaque today. Theories on which the study is based. I've already shown you that, so let's ignore that. Apologies for that. Okay, materials. Here we go. 4 videotapes. So, 4 videotapes, 75 seconds in duration. So here's some of those procedural points that are nice to show standardization when you're doing evaluation. All of them were the same. They were all 75 seconds in duration. Each tape showed 2 teams, 3 players. 1 team wearing white shirts, other black shirts. Players moved around in a relatively random fashion, okay, in an open area in front of a bank of 3 elevator doors. Okay, if we're looking forward to some criticism here, we're saying that they're in a relatively random fashion. They obviously weren't rehearsed to the point that they all ran around in exactly the same way. Now that could be important in terms of where your eyes go and whether a particular movement grabs your attention. So some of the differences in the results might be down to the fact that it's relatively random, but it isn't planned. It isn't identical. Members of each team passed a standard orange basketball to one another in a standardized order. So they had a standardized order that they passed it. So they'd given them player numbers in each team. Player 1 passed to player 2, passed to player 3, passed to player 1. So they knew which person they would be passing straight on to. So players would also dribble the ball, wave their arms, and make other movements consistent with their overall pattern of action. Okay, consistent with their overall pattern of action means you're going to wave your arms if you're about to receive the ball. Okay, so there is quite a lot of standardization there, but at the same time a little criticism in there if we want to use it. So after 44 to 48 seconds of action, so this is a lot longer than the clip that is on YouTube, either of the 2 unexpected events occurred. So in the umbrella woman condition, a tall woman holding an open umbrella walked from the off camera from one side to the other and from left to right. The actions of the players and the unexpected event were designed to mimic the stimuli used in previous research by Nisa and colleagues. So there's some similar, this study is partially being replicated by from another researcher. In the gorilla condition, a shorter woman wearing a gorilla costume walked through the action in the same way. In either case, the unexpected event lasted for 5 seconds. Now, an important point here is that this gorilla condition is not the gorilla condition of banging their chest, not standing and looking at the camera and banging her chest. That was an additional condition which they classed as a little controlled observation. It's coming up a bit later, I think. But this is simply, for this condition, this is simply doing exactly the same thing as the umbrella woman, walking from left to right, and the gorilla does the same. Okay, doesn't stop and bang their chest. Materials, there are 2 styles of video in transparent condition. So in the transparent condition, the white and the black team in the unexpected event were all filmed separately, and then the 3 video streams were rendered partially transparent, superimposed using some digital footage. So they were all filmed separately, the 3 video streams. So if you imagine a black team playing and a white team playing just running around, if you pile all of those things on top of each other, you can still see through them. So you can see there just about that white player you can see and the black player you can see. So you can still see everybody, but they're not in the same room together at the same time. It doesn't particularly matter, by the way, it's just simply they are manipulating how focused the eyes can be on these things. They're seeing if there is a difference. Do